Apartments.com is a service that allows landlords to host their properties, and it also allows tenants to view those properties so that they can see if they want to rent them. The service sold for $585 million back in 2014, but when you look at their app, you can see that it's actually pretty simple, so it makes it a perfect candidate to clone and learn all the valuable skills that come with creating an app. And it's for this reason that I decided to do that. And I'm going to show you guys how you can do the same. So throughout this series, you're going to learn how to implement autocomplete to search for locations, use that location data to display your properties on a React Native map, use React navigation to navigate through multiple different screens, allow users to sign in and create accounts using Apple OAuth, and allow users to do the same using Facebook and Google OAuth. We'll also learn how to allow users to create an account using an email and password. Along with this, we'll also go over how to implement forms into your app so users can input data and you can store that data. With this, we'll also go over the basics of CRUD operations, how to create a REST API, and how to model data to put it into your database. In addition to this, we'll also learn how to implement animations in React Native, Lottie animations, and upload images to an AWS S3 instance. This is the tech stack we'll be using to build out the app. So on the front end, we'll be using TypeScript and React Native. And to manage asynchronous state, we'll be using React Query. For the back end, we'll be using Go and a Go framework called Iris. For storing images, we'll use Amazon's S3. And to store data, we'll be using Posgresql. So without further ado, let's get into part one of the series. So to get started, make sure that you have Node installed on your machine, and then make sure that you install the Expo CLI. And once you've got all that stuff done, create a new project. I'm just going to put this on my desktop. So we're going to go Expo init apartments -clone and call it whatever you want. I just like this. And we're going to choose with tabs because that will set up the React navigation for us and it'll be less work. Alright, so it's finally done loading. I'm going to change into that directory and then open it in VS Code. And from here, I'm just going to open up the terminal and run Expo start. And this will start up the Expo development server. And from here, you can either use your phone to scan this QR code and do development that way, or you can use a virtual device to do your development. I'm going to use my phone because if I use a virtual device, it tends to crash my computer, but do whatever fits your needs. Once you've got the application open, you should have something like this on your screen. It's a simple little layout, but this is the base from which we'll be building. Let's go back to our text editor and add some new screens. So if you look at the apartments.com app, there are three main screens that we're going to need to build. And the first one is the search screen. The next one is going to be a saved screen. And the last one will be an account screen. And then from these screens, you can get to more screens. So for instance, if the user wants to search a location, they can press on this search bar and a new screen will pop up. From that new screen, they'll be able to search and then come back to here to display these properties. So what that really means is that we need to create a search, saved, and account screen and then take things from there. So let's get to that. And I'm going to head to my screens folder and create a new screen called search screen.tsx. And then from here, we're going to import view and text from React-native, and then export const search screen which is going to be equal to this function, and we're going to return a view. And within this view, we're going to return some text that says search screen. And that's going to be good enough for now. So let's just copy this stuff and paste it into another screen called saved screen. And then let's change this. And cool little feature is if you press Control D on a highlighted piece of text and that text exists somewhere else within the file, you can change both of those things at once. So here we're going to change that to saved screen. Save that. Then let's do the same with a file called account screen.tsx. Control A, Control C, then Control V. Then here, Control D, account screen, and then save. So with those screens created, let's now add them to our bottom tab. And to do that, we have to navigate to our navigation folder and click on index. And if you're anything like me, you'll be getting this error. I looked into it and it appears to be a dependency error for the types and specifically the React types. So how you fix it is just add this dependency to this dependency's object. And that dependency is at types/React 18.0.8, and I'm on Expo 45. So once you put that in your dependencies, open up your terminal. You can do that by pressing Control and tilde, and then from here you can either run npm install or yarn. Okay, now let's head back and try it out. And just like that, it's now working. Or we're not getting an error. Now we need to add our screens to the bottom tab navigator. And from here, we'll go to our bottom tab navigator, and we are going to change out these tabs to those screens that we just created. So let's create a new tab and call it search. Bottom tab.screen. And give it a name of search, and I'm just going to use this as a little template because it's handy and that's all we need. So we'll call it search, and we need to add this to our types, which we will do in a few moments. We're going to give it the component of search screen, and for the options prop, we're going to say header shown be false, and tab bar icon we'll just set to code for now. And let's just copy this over. Okay, that looks good. Let's do the same for saved screen and account screen. So I'm just going to copy this, paste and paste. So now that we've got those pasted, let's change the names on these, and we'll also need to import the various different screens. So for this one, we'll have saved and saved. Then I'm going to press Control and period, and then add that as an import. And here we'll do account and change this to account as well, Control period, and add that as an import. So we're getting this error here saying that name type saved is not assignable to key of root tab param list. So we need to add this as a key in that root tab param list. Now where is that? Well, that is going to be in our types file. Not there. So let's search for root tab param list, and it's right here. So we need to add search, and for right now it will be fine to assign undefined to these. So saved will be undefined, and account be undefined. And let's check out what it looks like. So Expo start. So I keep getting this message when trying to start my development server saying that I don't have types React installed as a dependency, but as you saw earlier, I put it as a dependency, and it's a dev dependency right here. So I'm just going to downgrade to the prior version and deal with the highlighting on index so that I can actually start my development server. For some reason, it's not starting with any version besides this. Or actually, I shouldn't say that. It was starting with 17.0.41, this right here, whenever I put that in. But I was still running into the same issues that I got here, where it's highlighting this component and these other components. So I am just going to add this in. So with that done, let's just start it up. So with a light theme, we can see the text up in the top left corner on our screens. So our screens are actually working. And now we just need some better icons. Head over to your favorite web browser and type in icons.expo.fyi and search for this website. And you'll get something like this. So we need to get a magnifying glass, a heart, and some sort of account icon for our screens. So let's search magnify, and this looks pretty good. I know from personal experience I like to use material community icons, so that's what I'm going to use here. I'm going to import this. So I'm just going to import that into my index file here. And then let's go back and search for some more. So this is called magnify, so we're going to have to remember that for later. Next is going to be a heart, specifically a heart outline, which let's just use material community icons again, and we'll get heart outline. So let's remember that name for later. And the last one is going to be some sort of account. So let's just type that in. And this seems to look good, account circle outline. So we've got magnify, heart outline, and account circle outline. So let's go back here, and we can actually get rid of this font awesome import and get rid of these font awesome icon references. So right there, we'll just change this to material community and material community icons. Okay. And let's get rid of these screens called tab 1 and tab 2 because we don't need them anymore. And here we can use account circle outline. Circle outline. For saved, we'll be using heart outline. And for the search screen, we'll be using magnify. Okay. And initial root name is no longer tab 1. That is going to be search. So for color scheme, we're just going to get rid of this. We don't need it anymore. We'll be changing this later. So for the tab bar active color, let's just change it to black. Then here for the theme, I'm just going to use default theme. And now we can go back to our screens and get rid of modal screen. We don't need this anymore. Delete. Not found screen can delete. Tab 1 screen can also delete, and tab 2 screen we can also delete. Now back in index, we're going to be getting some errors because oops, we don't have this anymore. Delete that. We're going to delete the screen from here, but keep the stack group because a lot of the screens within our app are actually going to be modals. So that's why we're keeping it. Now let's clear up these unused imports and go back to our types so that we can get rid of these. and also get rid of these. Okay, that looks good. So I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but during that little presentation, all of our text was in the top left for our screens, and that's because we need to put a area view, or rather a safe area view, on all of our screens, especially if you're on an iPhone, a newer version that is, because if you don't add that safe area view, all of your top level content will be like up here in the top left or top right. And that just doesn't look good. So we're going to create a new component called screen.tsx, well, a new file. And then within this file, let's import safe area view from React Native and style sheet, and also view props. Okay, now let's export const screen, which is going to return a safe area view component. And then within that, we are going to have some things that we need to return. So the component needs to take children as props, which will assign any, and then it will also have styles, which will give it a prop of style, and style, which will be view props, or is it view style props? Actually, we need to import view style here. That's what it is. View style. Okay, so within here, let's render out our children. And for the style, we need to do something like this. So we want to add our own styles, and then if we need to pass in specific styles, we will allow for that as well. So down here, we'll create a new variable called styles, and then assign it to a style sheet, and create, and we'll just call this container, and give it a flex of 1. So call it styles.container, and then style. And this is how you add in multiple styles. You just pass in these multiple styles into an array, and then pass that array into a style prop. And one thing we need to do is make this an optional prop. And also within this container style, let's add in something specific for Androids. So we're going to give it a padding top, and then let's import platform from React Native, platform, and also status bar from React Native, save that. And we're saying if the operating system is Android, we're going to give it a padding top of the status bar. Otherwise, we'll just set it to 0, and that will take care of all of our issues and concerns to content being above the status bar. So with this new screen component created, we need to add this to our save screen, account screen, and search screen. So let's search for those. This is the shortcut Control P. I'm going to input search screen. And then down here, we'll import screen from components/screen. And then let's replace this view with screen. And that looks good. Now I'm gonna get rid of view. And then I'll just copy this and add it to the others. Control P, saved screen, get rid of view, and Control D, screen, save that. Now let's go to account screen, get rid of this, Control D, and screen. And now let's go and check it out. And now we'll have something like this where we only have 3 screens, the active icon color is black, and the content shown is much cleaner. So with our navigation created and those 3 screens implemented, we now need to start building out the content of these screens. And to do that, we're going to use a component library called UI Kitten. So to get started, just head to their website and click Get Started. From this point, go to Where to Start, Get Started, and then since we've already got an app initialized, we need to do a manual installation. If you're using NPM, just use this, but I'm using Yarn, so I'm gonna run this command in my terminal. And because we're using Expo, we also need to run this command, which will install React Native SVG version 9.13.6. And with those installed, head to your app file and copy these 2 imports, paste them into the app file, and then wrap this in the application provider component. And if you want to move code like that, all you have to do is highlight the code and then press Alt and the up arrow or down arrow on your keyboard. So with that implemented, let's just copy this over as well. So as you guys see here, we're getting some type of TypeScript error, and apparently you can fix this by updating the React types to version 18, but then we'll run into the problem where we can't start our Expo development server. So I'm just going to keep it like this for now. The next thing we need to do is change our theme, and to do that we'll head to this branding section, and you can read all of this stuff if you'd like, but we're going to create a theme using their Eva Colors website. And to get the brand color, let's head over to apartments.com. So now that we're at apartments.com, let's inspect the page. I'm on Firefox right now, so I'm just going to use this little droplet and get this color. And now that we've got the hex code, let's go to Eva Design and paste that in. And then these are the complementary colors to that. So with that done, let's export a JSON file, and then take that download and place it in the root of your project. So just go here, and then I'm going to rename this to just theme. .json. And here you'll see all of the colors that we have access to. And from here, let's import that into app. So import default as theme from theme.json. And then let's replace this light theme with theme. Now let's change this active tab icon so that it displays this main green color. And to do that, let's head over to index.tsx. So first we need to import our theme. So import default as theme from, I believe, okay, it's one up, so theme.json. And let's get rid of color and use color schemes. Also, let's get rid of dark theme. And here we will change this from black to theme.color-primary-500, and that will change it to that primary color. So let's go check that out and make sure it works. And here it is. As you can see, the icons are now green when the tab is active. So let's get started on building out the search screen. A few things pop out to me when I look at this screen, but the main thing are these cards and the scrollable list, where you can view each property and you can like the property, go through the images of that property, and even click on it to go into further detail about that property. So let's get started on building that out. Alright, so let's just start this off by building this card out. Now, this card displays a property. So within our code, we're going to need to create a property object which has all of these components. For instance, it'll store a price minimum, bed minimum, the name. It will store these image URLs, all these things. So I've already built out that object, and this is what the schema will look like. Granted, we're going to have to add some more stuff whenever we press on this and get to the property details, but this will do for now. Just trying to build out this little card here. So starting off, we'll have images, and I just got these images from the web. And then we're going to have a rent low and a rent high. We'll have a bedroom low, a bedroom high. We'll store the name, the street, the city, state, and zip, and then any additional tags. Now let's start to build out the card and display all this information so that it will look like this. And to do that, we need to first change our imports. So let's get rid of this text here. We're actually going to be importing text from UI Kitten. So let's just do that real quickly. Text and button as well from @UI Kitten /components. And then in React Native, in that import, we need to add view, style sheet, dimensions, and image. And then additionally, we are going to need material community icons. So import that as well from Expo vector icons. And that should be good. Yeah, oh, one more thing. We need to import our theme. So default as theme from one directory up and theme.json. So I had started to do some development, and I noticed that my theme wasn't working. As you can see, these buttons are supposed to be this color, but they aren't. So that led me to do some digging, and despite what it says in their documentation about the exporting of themes and exporting to a JSON file, they actually allow you to use an export to the UI Kitten theme. So that'll just give you a TypeScript file that looks like this. And this actually will work. So what I ended up doing was just the same process of getting this color and then adding it here, except once I got to this point, I exported to UI Kitten theme, and then I took that download and pulled it over here. So now I'm going to start using this, but first I need to get rid of all the dependencies on this theme.json file. So I just wanted to go through that to make sure that you guys did this as well, because if you don't do it, it's looking like it won't actually work the way that it's intended to. So we only use theme in 2 places, and well, 3 actually. So the first place was app, so let's go there, app.tsx, and get rid of this theme, and then import my theme from custom theme, and then you can just say my theme. I'm gonna rename it real quick to just theme here, and then change this and change this as well. And also let's just get rid of theme.json as well. So delete that and rename this to theme. Alright, let's go back to app, and okay, that seemed to work, so save that. So there's 2 other places where we need to get rid of theme, or actually one other place, which is in the index file, and that'll be here. So let's see what we got here. So let's get rid of this and then import theme from theme. I gotta get rid of that. All right, so let's get started in turning this into this. So first things first, we need to get rid of this text within the screen component. And then, yeah, let's just start out by adding a view in the screen component. This will be the container of this card. And then the first thing within this card at the top level is this image. So let's add an image in this view. And the image is going to need three things. The first thing is going to be a source, which we need to assign a URI to. And that URI is going to be equal to property.images, and the index is going to be 0. And eventually we're going to have this be a flat list where the user can scroll through the images, but this will work for now. The next thing that we need to add are, well, the next things that we need to add are the height and width. So we will add those to the style prop, and the height, we'll set that to 250. So for the width, we need to assign that to the width dimension of the screen. And to do that, we're going to use this dimensions import, and we're going to assign that to a constant variable. And I'm going to call it width, which is going to be equal to dimensions.get screen, and then the width property. All right, so cool. We're using that, and we'll set this to width. And the next thing I notice is that there seems to be a horizontal margin for all the components within this list right here. So I'm going to add that real quick, and we're going to be adding this onto the screen. Well, to start off, we'll add it to the screen, but eventually we'll just add it to the list itself. So to do that, we'll create another variable and put it above width. Here, we'll just call it list margin. And we'll assign that a value of 10. And then down here for width, we need to do a subtraction of the list margin times 2. And then here we will assign the style margin horizontal to list margin. Okay, so with that done, let's get started on this bottom row here. So within this row, there is going to be a heart and the dollar amounts. So to do that, we need to create a view and assign the style equal to a flex direction, and that needs to be row. Now within this, we need to have a text component showing the dollar amounts, and then property.rent low.toLocale string, and this will just put the commas in this value. So typically it will just read like this, but here it has commas, so that's why we're adding this. All right, so next we need to add a dash and then add the property.rent_high.toLocale string. Now that should be good. And the other component within this row is this heart, and by default it's going to be an empty heart, so I'm going to put that as the name. So here we'll add in our material community icons component. Name is going to be heart dash outline. Color is equal to our theme primary color. Theme dot, oh yep, and I just auto imported theme here. So theme, so this color is going to be equal to theme and then color primary of 500. And next, our size is going to be equal to 24. Next thing we have to add here is a justify content, and we're going to use space between. Next thing we have to do is change the text. This is a bolder text than the default text, so we'll add the category prop and assign that to S1. Next thing we need to do is add the beds underneath. So that's just going to be a text component. And this is going to be smaller text, so we're going to give it a category equal to C1. And then we're going to do the same thing here, just with property.beds or bedroom low, and then property.bedroom high. Looks like there's a little gap here between those, maybe a margin top on this next text component of 5. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. Style is equal to margin top of 5. We'll just copy this as well for the next 2. So let's change this real quick to property dot name. Get rid of this beds at the end. Then the next thing is the street, so property dot street. Get rid of this stuff. And last but not least, we have to do the city, state, and the zip. For that, we just do property dot city, comma, property dot state, and then property.zip. So underneath our city, state, and zip, we want to display the tags. This tags property is going to be an array, so we can map through the array. The only thing is that if we have multiple tags, we want to make sure that we are separating them by a comma in between. So for instance, this should say parking, comma, value 1, comma, value 2. And if there's only 3 values in the array, we want to make sure that we're only adding 2 commas. So we need to keep that in mind. And additionally, we need to return a component that has a margin top of 5. So let's do that. And let's start off by creating a text component. Give it a style equal to margin top of 5. And let's map through the property dot tags array dot map. And we're going to need the tag and the index. And from this, we're going to either return the value itself or the value plus a comma and a space. So let's add some logic here, comparing the index to the length of this array. If it's less than the length minus 1, we need to add a comma and a space after the word. So index equals to property dot tags dot length minus 1 question mark. Then we'll just return the tag itself. Else we need to return the tag plus a comma and space. To make this a little simpler, I'm just going to use the backticks here and add a $, then brackets, and say tag, then comma and space. Now let's save that, and it should be working. Okay, our text is a little too big, so let's change the category equal to C1. So let's get rid of these. Those are giving us the behavior we want. And let's add some buttons below this text. Button on press. So the first one's going to be an email button. And actually we need to put these in a view with the flex direction equal to row. Style equals flex direction of row. this on press, we'll just say console.log email the property manager. And then needs to have a value of email. And let's just copy this and paste it below. And here we go. We'll say call instead. And call. Now let's give this view a margin top of 5 as well. Margin top of 5. We also need to make the buttons look like this. For this button, we're going to say appearance is equal to ghost, and that will make it such that the background is white. And then we need to add a style here, and we have to give it a border, or a border color, and a border width. So the border color is going to be equal to theme of color dash primary dash 500. And actually we don't need to give it a border width because that is already appearing. So, and we're going to give these a size of small. So let's give this one a size of small as well. Let's justify the content as well to give it a even spacing, so space evenly. And then let's change the width of each button so that they're the same width. And I'm thinking 48% will probably do. So here we'll just go width be 48%. And same thing here. I'm just going to copy this and paste it down below. Get rid of this. Okay, that's looking decent right now. So let's add a border to our view here, to our card. So we'll give it a style equal to border color. It's going to be hashtag D3, D3, D3. And we're going to give it a border radius of 5. And we also need to give it a border width of 1. Let's add some padding. Actually, yeah, padding of 5. So with that padding added, it kind of jacked up our image. So what we actually need to do is separate the image from the bottom content. So that's what we're going to do now. And to do that, we just have to add a view here and then wrap all this stuff in that view. And we're going to give that a style of padding and 5, I think it was. 5, maybe, let's try 10, see if that looks any better. Yeah, that's looking pretty good with 10. So one thing I did notice is that we should change the buttons here, and we need to change this to space between the button container. So space between, and then change these to 49%. Here for this top level padding, I'm thinking we actually need to do padding vertical equal to 10, and then padding horizontal equal to 5. Next thing we have to do is just add a border radius to the top corners of this image. Border top right radius will give 5, and border top left will give 5. So this is what your screen should be looking like right about now. One thing I do notice is that here you can see that the image is slightly offset, And that's because we're adding a border width of 1 to the whole entire card. I think what we need to do is actually just add a border around this part of the card. So let's do that and let's see if it changes it. So take away this top level border width from the top level view component, and let's actually just get rid of this style entirely. Make sure, let's just cut it here. Yeah. And then we'll go to this bottom component and we'll paste it underneath. Now let's get rid of that. Get rid of this. Border color, and then border width will be 1. Border width 1. Cool. Okay. That's looking a little bit better, but we need to only specify a border radius around the bottom edges. So we want border radius bottom left, or border bottom left radius to be 5, and then border bottom right radius to be 5. And this is what we're working with now. I mean, this pretty much looks just like what we had before. So this is the actual apartments.com, and then this is what we just created. So I mean, the font's a little different, but you know, it'll work. I think we could maybe change the height here to 200, and that'll work, or 225. So let's do that real quick, and then we can start to develop the scrolling feature for the images. Let's change this to 225. Alright, so with that change made, we now need to add another import, which will be flatlist from React Native. And we are going to be using this flatlist to scroll through our images. So let's add this flatlist here. Data is going to be equal to property.images. Key extractor is going to be equal to the item. Okay, so it's just going to be equal to the item, which will just be a unique URL. And for the item that we want to render, we want to render an image. So let's destructure that item and then index. I don't think we'll be needing the index, but I like to add it to the destructuring here. So let's just copy and paste this right here. So Control X, Control V. Now we need to make horizontal equal to true. Just add horizontal here. Shows horizontal scroll indicator is false. Let's add snap to alignment equal to center. And paging enabled be true. We also need to create a flat list ref. So here let's create a variable called flat list ref. Flat list ref equals to use ref, and this ref can either be a flat list or null. Yeah, and then null. And then for ref here, we'll say this, that we'll pass in a ref here and say flatlist.current. Okay, flatlist ref dot current is equal to ref. The next prop that we need to set is viewability config, and this will just create an object and then assign that here. So I'm going to call the object view config, and I copied it. So within this object, we'll have a property called view area coverage threshold, and we're going to set that to 95. So let's assign that here. View config. So all this stuff should be good. Let's just change the source. Let's just change this source URI to the item. And that should be good. Now let's go and check it out. So this is what it's looking like. We're getting that nice functionality where you can just swipe left and right, and it's pretty snappy. But we still need to add those arrows and allow for the user to press on the arrows to go left and right through the images. So let's get to that. So I think the first thing we should do is look for some icons and put those on the image. So head to icons.expo.fyi, and I believe these are called chevrons. Alright, so it looks like both material icons and material community icons have the chevrons. So we're already importing from material community icons. I'm just going to use those. So when adding these chevrons, we actually want to add them on top of the flat list images. It doesn't matter which image. So we don't want to include it in the render item. We actually want to include it beneath the flat list itself. So let's do that. Let's create a material community icon. Let's give it the name of chevron left. Chevron dash left. Color is going to equal, we want it to equal white, but just to get things going, we're going to give it red because it's easier to identify. And then for size, equal to 32. And let's just copy and paste this for the right chevron. So we need to give these an absolute position. So let's do that first. Position is going to be absolute. So if we just add this, it'll be on top of the image, but we want to put it in the middle of the image. So we should have somewhere around 110, should put it in the middle of the image. So use the top key and put 110 here. And that looks a little past the middle to me. So I'm gonna do like 95, and that looks pretty good. So we'll just do the same with the right, chevron right. So let's just copy and paste this. The only thing we'll have to do is add the right property here. Let's give it a right of 5. And to be consistent, let's add this a left of 5 here. And let's change the size here. I think they would benefit from being larger, so let's say 45. Now let's change the color back to white. So we want to actually be able to interact with these chevrons and press them to go left and right through our images. So to do that, let's import Pressable from React Native. These icons do have an on-press prop, but I found that whenever you press them, they bring up a black background, and I haven't been able to figure out how to get rid of that. So I'm just going to use Pressable. So what we want to do is put these components into a pressable component. We'll wrap them in a pressable component, and then let's just add these styles to the pressable component. And we also need to add an onPress event to the pressable component. And we'll just say console.log go left, because that's what we want to do whenever we hit the left chevron. And let's just do the same here. Pressable style equals this stuff. That's fine. And let's get rid of that. Do this. Copy this. Add it to our new pressable component. And say go right. So let's just test those out, make sure they're working. Yup, they're working. So next thing we need to do is add some functionality to those components. So here I brought in some new code that implements this functionality. I'm just going to copy it over into this new file. So first thing I'm going to do is create a new state and call it active index. And set active index. And we're going to assign that to 0. And we also need to import that. Use state. Next thing we're going to do is create this ref called onViewRef. ViewRef equals useRef changed, where a change can be any. And then we'll say if changed sub-0 dot is viewable, then set active index to changed 0 dot index. So we'll be using this to change this index, and based upon this index, we can then use the arrows to either go right or left. So let's add this to the flat list, and we're going to be adding it to the prop called onViewableItemsChanged. OnViewRef.current. So to handle whenever the left chevron is pressed, I'm just going to copy this code over and explain it, and I'm going to do the same for the right chevron. And I have added these down to the onPress events here. So left chevron, handle press left, and then right chevron, handle press right. So for the handle left press, really what we care about is if we're at index of 0, or if we're at the first image, in other words, because if we go left, then we'll have to go to the last image in the array. And to do that, I've found that if you try to animate that, it's going to be extremely slow and might even break your app. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. I just haven't found that out yet. So I'm just using this fix at the moment, setting animated to false, and then scrolling to the last index in the array. If you're not on the first image, all you really have to do is go to the index before and just scroll to that image. So this is what this is doing. And conversely, if you press the right chevron and you're on the last image in the array, you want to go to the first image in the array, which is index 0, which is what this is doing. Otherwise, you just need to go to the index that is one above your current, which is what this is saying. So let's check out what that actually looks like in practice. So this is what it looks like. This is me pressing on the chevrons. So this is me scrolling through. If you notice there, whenever I'm scrolling on the image and get to index of 0 or the last image in the array and try and scroll to the left or scroll to the right, I'm going to get that bouncing animation because I can't scroll. I haven't found a fix for that yet, but I'm sure there's one out there. Right now, I'm just dealing with it. I don't think it's that big of an issue, but if you find one out there, certainly let me know. I would much appreciate that. So back in our search screen, let's add a flat list within the screen component. Flat list. For data, let's actually call this properties now. We can copy this over and just create a duplicate. Now let's create an array here and give an ID to each property. So this will be ID of 1. This will have the ID of 2. Granted, they'll be the same, but this is for demonstration purposes right now and just building it out. So let's have the data equal to properties. Key extractor is going to be equal to item.id, id.toString, and then so for render item here, we just need to return pretty much the card that we just built. So let's do that here. I'm going to add parentheses instead of a return statement and destructure for item. And let's move that in. And we're going to be getting some errors because there is no such thing as property anymore. So let's just highlight all those and change property to item. So with this top level flat list in place, let's add another prop here called shows vertical scroll indicator, and we're going to set that to false. All right, let's check it out. All right, so this is what it looks like now. The scrolling left and right works, but the chevrons no longer work. And it no longer works because we no longer have this variable called property. So let's refactor our code, and this should be able to fix itself. So to start, I am going to create a new component in our components called card.tsx. All right, so let's just say export const card here. We'll just return an empty component right now. And then go back to your search screen and just copy all this stuff, the list margin, the width, all this stuff for right now. Not sure how much we'll actually need. Well, we'll need a lot of the imports, but I'm not sure if we'll need list margin. Oh yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll probably need to create a constants file and put this in there along with the width. So let's do that actually right now. We actually have constants here. We have a constants folder. Let's just create a constants file. I might just get rid of that folder. TS. All right, so with this created, I realized that we should probably just get rid of this constants folder. I was looking in it. I don't think we'll need anything in it. So I'm gonna delete that along with some of these components that were mentioned. So styled text, we can delete that. Themed, delete. Edit screen info, delete that. Along with screens here, yeah, we're good there. Hooks, I mean, even hooks, we'll probably end up deleting some of these. So within constants, let's use these. So I'm gonna cut those and then paste them here and import dimensions from React Native. And let's do an export here. Yeah, export. All right, cool. So now that we've done that, let's go down to our initial flat list. Everything that you're rendering within the first flat list in this screen component, just copy that and let's paste it into card. So based upon this, I see two components that we really care about. We have the top level flat list with these chevrons, and I'm going to consider that like a carousel, image carousel. And then here we have the card info. So let's create some more components. But first we need to take care of these props. So I'm going to destructure, and I'm going to say property here, and pretty much the property type is going to be this, so we can just hover over this and get the types. And let's add this to a new folder called types /property.ts, and we're going to export const property, which is equal to that. And instead of type, I put const here, I need to put type, and that will agree. So let's do this, come here, say property, be type property. It's coming up as in the auto import, and that's working. And then we're gonna add styles as well, or just style. And style will be a view style, and we need to make that optional. And then here we can choose to implement that style. So style, and then anytime we have item in here, we can just say property. So yeah, item, Control H, property. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Yeah, here we can change some stuff wherever it says item. Change this to property, and it should like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we need to do some further refactoring here. I'm going to put this in its own component, and that's when we'll bring over these handle press left and right functions. So here, let's create another component called image carousel. Image carousel.tsx. Export const image carousel, and it should be good. Now within this, we'll be taking in an array of images. So we'll just have images here. Images will be a string array. So here, let's just say return, and then here, create a fragment there, and then paste within that fragment. Now we need to add these imports, so let's import flatlist, import flatlist, pressable, and is that it? We have image, and underneath that we have material community icons. Okay, that looks good. Now we need to copy over the refs, the state. Let's import width. We also need to import style sheet. And let's copy over those functions. So copy this. Over here. Let's import useState and useRef from React. Yeah, just React. Now let's go back to search screen, copy this stuff over. Back to our image carousel. We don't need property here for the index. We don't need property here. We don't need property here. All right, let's add some styles to this. Well, let's clean up the styles for this. So let's create a new styles component. Or let's create a new styles variable. And we'll create an image styles. So let's copy this. Let's say styles. Within this, create image object, rather. Create an image object. Just paste that in. And here we'll say styles.image. We can get rid of this index. So both of these are using position absolute and then top 95. So we can just have this as chevron. Say this and this. And then we can use an array here and say styles.chevron, comma, this object. Same thing here. Well, create this array. Styles.chevron and then write a 5. That should be good. All right, now let's implement that within our card. We'll just say and now we'll import image carousel from image carousel, and here we'll have the image carousel with our images equal to property dot images, and that should work now. So on the screen, we need to change all this stuff to simply card, and make sure you're importing that from your components folder. And then our property is going to be item. And let's just make sure that that works. So this is what it looks like. The chevrons are working again, and so is the scrolling. So now let's refactor this part of the card component. So let's go back into card and begin dismantling this stuff. So from what I can see, we are reusing a view here where we're using flex direction as row, and quite frankly, we'll have to do that a lot. So I'm just going to create a new component and call it row. Row.tsx, export const row, and it's going to have anything for the children. So we can keep that in mind. Return a view. We're going to need some styles here. Const style sheet. First, yes. Const styles equals style sheet dot create. Now let's just call this container. Let's say style is equal to styles dot container. And then we will import style sheet from React Native and view from React Native. And for the props, we'll have children and styles. So children will be any, children will be any, and then style will be view style. So that's another import we'll have. And here we're going to change this to an array, and then we'll put style at the end. And within this component, let's render out the children. So for container here, we need to change this to flex direction of row. Okay, so I don't need anything else within this, so I'm just going to close this out and go back to the card. Let's import that, import row from row, and we can change this here to row, and we don't need this. Let's see, we're both using space between there, so we just need a margin top. Okay, so we can just do this, change this to row as well, and change this bottom view. Wait. Alright, so let's change this to row along with this. And we no longer need this flex direction of row. And let's do the same here. Change this to row, and change this to row. No longer need this. And let's also create our styles here. Style sheet dot create button. Our button is going to have a width of 49, so width be 49%. And now we can just change this to styles.button, and same thing here. Was change this to an array. Yeah, wrap this and say styles.button at the end or the beginning, doesn't matter. Now here we seem to have a consistent margin top throughout our code, so we can change that and put it in a style. Yep, same thing here. So let's just say default margin top here. And within this, we'll say styles.default margin top. Styles.default margin top. Styles.default margin top. Okay. And then we're also using space between here. So here we can say row justification or something. Row justification. Justification. And say that. And get rid of this whilst keeping row justification. And let's add that here, styles.row justification. So here I'm just going to copy all this stuff and put it in the styles, and then let's just call this styles.information container. And I'm going to put it at the top. going to put button at the bottom because the buttons are at the bottom. Alright, this looks good enough, but I think we can do better by making this its own component. So let's do that, and we can actually just copy these styles over. So what should we call this? I'm thinking this new component can be called card information.tsx. For this, we can just export const card information, and it will take a property for its props. Which is going to be of the type property. Now we just need to import that. And then we need to return everything that we have in this view with the style of information container. So cut that over. Let's just return that. Let's go back here, copy all these styles over. We'll rather cut them and then paste them. Let's go back to card again. Yeah, let's just do this. Copy all those over. And then get rid of what we don't need. Okay, we did property there. Don't need carousel, screen. Alright, this is looking good now. Let's go back to card and import it here. So card information, and then property will be equal to property. And let's get rid of all this stuff. Unused imports. Theme here, row there. We don't need all that stuff. Okay. Constants. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Now let's go back to our search screen, get rid of this stuff that we don't need. And we don't need list margin here either. We can import that. Import list margin from constants. So one thing that we do need to add here is a style, and we're going to give this a margin vertical of 10. Well, we'll give it a margin vertical of 5, and that will give some space in between the cards. So let's go and check it out, make sure our refactoring worked. So this is what the updated version looks like. As you can see, there is now a margin between the cards, so that's good, and the cards are functioning as we expect. So I'd say that was a successful refactor, and now we can start adding in the map and the header components. So this video is getting pretty long, and I'm going to cut it here, but in the next video we're going to be going over how to create this component as well as add in the map to the search screen. So if you want to see that, check out the next video, and thank you for watching.